I'm going to need your help with this one. This evaluation is going to take a bit of, conversing to get through. Harold Perkins, right? You know what I mean? Fantastic couple of years ago when we first kind of watched him or whatever. Harold Perkins out there, blazing, running around, super athletic, bursty, pass rushing and shit. You know what I'm saying? Just fire, right? Gets hurt, damn. Da-da-da. Now he's kind of being projected as like a day 3 guy. Not the biggest guy in the world, but, if you were a team that draft him, you get you a dude to get to fly around a little bit. You know what I'm saying? First of all, let me ask you this, because I think this is the first question that we have to kind of figure out with Harold Perkins. Is he a linebacker or is he an edge for you?
He's a linebacker.
Okay.
He's a linebacker, no doubt about it.
Okay. Talk to me about it. Tell me about Harold Perkins Jr. from LSU.
Yeah, I mean, this guy was primarily an edge rusher, and then he got hurt, and then he transitioned more in that star role. Very similar to what Kyle Lewis did for Pittsburgh. And he's not the cover guy, but, man, this guy can fly to the football. I mean, I think the development he showed this year gives you promise that he can really survive in an off-ball role. I love Harold Perkins. I think Harold Perkins, you can use him sort of a chess piece on defense. We talk about guys like Betcher and Kilgore where, you're just waiting for the film to show up and you're waiting for the play. Like that's it right there. Yeah. And with Harold Perkins, I feel like, the Clemson game, you watch that game, you think he's a first-round pick. Yeah. And so it's just getting the consistency there, but you can see it. You can see the promise of him as an off-ball linebacker where blitzing him, rushing him off the edge. I mean, he's one of the best blitzing linebackers in this draft. Just the way he knows how to navigate traffic, he has so that edge profile to him. But man, I watch him. I see so much promise, and I think it's a miscarriage of justice the way LSU sort of changed his role every year, and it just different regimes and whatnot. But man, I like Harold Perkins a lot, and people might think it's a little high, but I think the Cowboys acquiring 92 for Osa, I think you can do so many things with this guy. And if you want to line him up as a 3-4 outside linebacker in this new scheme, or you just want to use him as sort of like a matchup weapon, like as a spy. You got a lot of guys in the NFC East now that can run the football, like Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Jackson Dart. You're going to need someone who can spy those guys, and Harold Perkins could be that guy. I just think Harold Perkins is someone who is a unique talent in this draft. And I went back and forth with you on Twitter about Jayshon Barham. Mm-hmm. And Barham's a bigger guy. I think Barham's more of a full-time edge at the next level. But Perkins has a little bit sort of that to him, where he can rush, he can drop back, and he's still developing those instincts. But I think if you pigeonhole him to day 3, I think you could be missing out on a player like him. I think we haven't seen his best football yet. He's been switching his role every year. And similar to what you talk about Golday, you put him in a role, you let him stick with it, you let him develop there. I think you're going to be really happy with your return on investment. He's just a unique player. It's going to take the right team to see a vision for him. My vision for him is really a sort of this matchup weapon. You can have him rush, you can have him blitz, you can have him, drop back on certain plays. But I think this is someone that is a unique talent, and he's definitely a top 100 guy for me. But it's going to take the right scheme fit for sure.
So I'm glad you brought it up. This defensive draft class continues to be fascinating with the versatility or position flex that comes from some of these guys, right? You brought up Barham. I definitely had the Barham pitch loaded up for you, right? I got Perkins in the 3rd round, by the way. I also got Barham in the 3rd round.
Yep.
But I think Barham is a guy that's more of a full-time linebacker dude that's going to play edge sometimes, and I think he's good at both. I think Perkins is going to fit as a full-time, and look, when I say edge, I'm talking about Cowboys for edge, so like a 3-4 outside linebacker type guy. Mm-hmm. I think he'll be awesome playing right there. So I have him as an edge guy. But I also think there's roles to where he can play some off-ball stuff as well. So versatility is going to matter. Just as my board, he's a 3-4 outside linebacker right now. And when I think about some of the things that he can do, just like you mentioned, bro, I think it's going to be game dependent. And not like, he can't play a whole season at one spot. But it's like, bro, if you playing against like Jalen Hurts or something, let him go chase Jalen Hurts around because he can fly, right? Like, for example, if you have, let's say Jadeveon Clowney playing outside linebacker for you, right? You'll never ask Jadeveon Clowney to spy Jalen Hurts because he just ain't got the burst to do that. Harold Perkins, in one drive, right, he'll be a good pass rusher for you. He'll drive back into the hook and curl for you in the flats if you want him to. But then on third down, because Jalen Hurts is going to miss his read, tuck the ball and run. I'm talking shit about Jalen Hurts. Let Harold Perkins be spy guy for you and just chase that dude around. I think Harold Perkins is incredibly versatile. And I think what happens is, I think people kind of got him lowered down the board. I see a lot of people got him in the day 3 conversation. I'm with you. I think he's lowered down that board because of the drop off from his 2020 23, 22 season, whatever. But dog, like he's gonna be further removed from that injury or whatever, right? And they may look at him like he's a bit smaller or something like that. I looked at his last year's film. I saw that burst. I think he was just fine in terms of tearing it up on the field. And bro, you mentioned he does fly off the film. Some of these guys don't jump off the film. Perkins jumps off the film, but he is small. So to your point, I don't think he's going to be a full-time guy anywhere. I think if you line him up against the offensive tackle the entire game, I think you're wrong. I think if you look for matchups to him to run around a tight end and then go play off ball and, cover a running back or something like that, I'm fine with all that kind of stuff. I just think you need a creative DC to kind of use him in that way. And I think the Cowboys may have that. So, bruh, I got him as an edge, standing outside linebacker. In the 3rd round, I got him behind guys like Joseph, Crawford, and Perkins is like my last 3rd round guy in that edge group. But I might bump him up because I feel like he has much more versatility than some of those other edges that I got in that group or whatever. But I can see Perkins being a guy that's polarizing. Everybody's going to have a different, vibe for him.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it. Do you think you could be getting like a big bargain on Harold Perkins? Because this is a guy that was viewed as a 1st-round guy, the next guy up in the SEC, had the injury, smaller guy. I feel like there's a lot of players like this in this class, I'll touch on this real quickly and I'll move on, but like a guy like Peter Woods, for example, who is the top overall prospect heading into the year. Clemson had a down year. I get it. It wasn't the year they expected. He didn't take the pass rush leap that Maine wanted. But damn, he's still a good player, and he didn't get worse at football in 1 year. And so I kind of had the same view of Harold Perkins in a way where Harold Perkins, I feel like people were expecting him to be like this, 1st-round edge rusher, and when they realized that that's probably not his best role at the next level, they said, okay, well, torn ACL, let's bump him down to day 3. He still showed that burst and that explosion that he showed early in his career on tape this year, and so. I'm with you, man. I love Harold Perkins. I think if he's there at 92, I think he's a perfect scheme fit for that 3-4 outside linebacker. You can move him around, rush, blitz, spy. I have a sneaking feeling that the Cowboys really love him. They met with him at the Combine. They're going to meet with him in Baton Rouge. I just think he's a great scheme fit. And you're looking for a guy that can run and chase. This is that guy. And there's just so much untapped potential with Perkins with what he was not asked to do. And so if you let him develop into one singular role without changing his, changing his direction, which from what he's been doing on a snap-to-snap basis, I think you're going to get a really good player. And I feel like people who are pigeonholing the day 3 are missing out on sort of a unique talent in this draft with the versatility he brings and what he can do. And I touched on it earlier. My scouting process is always, what can a player do? Not as opposed to like focusing on, he's small or, he can't get off blocks, he can't cover, he doesn't have to experience this. This guy is probably the best blitzing linebacker in the draft. And the fact that you can get him at 92, and the whole narrative about him and, what it was, I think you could be getting a big bargain at 92 with Harold Perkins. And I think this is someone who hasn't played his best football yet.
Jonah, I don't know if you know that much about me, but I say this almost every day. Teams suck at drafting. I don't just say that to be cute. I don't just say that just to have some swaggy thing to say to be some homer to let good players fall to me. Teams really have a bad grasp on breaking down players. And when I say teams, I really mean like people, like teams and people on Twitter and these national outlets. They suck at player evaluation and picking dudes. And you kind of said it perfectly. somebody's going to drop Harold Perkins down because they're going to be like, well, I think he's a little smaller and I don't think he can go cover a wide receiver out the slot. Okay, cool. Don't ask him to do that. don't ask him to do that. If you just strictly ask him to do what he's good at, he's phenomenal. So to answer your question in terms of value, and teams sucking at drafting has a lot to do with this. I think when you are drafting, I think you have to take into account where other teams have them. So if you get them in the third round, that's 92, I believe. If you get him in the third round, I think that's appropriate value. I do think that's a good value for him. I think the returns you'll get back from him is like a player that you get in the second round, right? But if teams suck at drafting and you take somebody else and you land Perkins at 112, then you can throw a damn party because then your value is through the damn roof. But I don't want to shoot dice and hopefully lose Perkins. You know what I'm saying? I want that dude here. I want him here. And the type of players I love are the players that I love a whole bunch and people got questions about them. I love them dudes because that means I can get somebody that I really like later on. So that's where I'm at.
No, and there's a larger conversation that needs to be had about dropping players because of size or whatever it is. What do they do on tape? I mean, like D'Angelo Pons from Indiana, we touched on him earlier when termed the signal for a smaller cornerback potentially for Dallas. All this guy does is make plays on the ball and mirrors and matches well. Like I'm not. If you're looking for draft evaluations that match, national media and say, okay, he's too small, whatever it is, I'm not the guy. I'm someone who has D'Angelo Pons 18th overall on my board. Like I said, I have Harold Perkins in the third round. I Chandler Rivers, I have him in the second round. So I don't focus on what a player can't do. What do they do on film that pops? And guys like Harold Perkins, this guy has phenomenal tape. And he may have inconsistencies because of what he was asked to do. I don't think that's what he's going to be doing the next level. I don't think he's going to be a coverage guy. I think he's going to be a run and chase guy who's sort of a mismatched game-to-game player, matchup player who can blitz, who can spy, who can rush. There's just so much to like about Harold Perkins' game. And then we talked about, if we're just pigeonholing to day three because of size, I think you're really missing out on a real good talent.